As we begin this, AAC meeting and the beginning of the year, there's just been a lot that has happened. As we began this new position as the borough president, we had a horrific fire, that everyone has talked about, and truly we continue to pray for those families that will never be the same again. Families that are traumatized, that do not want to return to Twin Parks. While they may not have lost a loved one, they are truly changed forever. And as a borough, as a city, I believe that we are changed forever. But somehow in the middle of pain, we always find purpose. And in the middle of a storm, we can always find strength. And even in the midst of these challenging times, I am choosing to look at hope and optimism for better and brighter days. And my office, along with so many from AAC, so many of our community members, our president, Mohammed Mada, Dr. Bola, Imam Kaba, and so many, Dr. Balde, so many have just really come forward to just lend a helping hand. Monroe College opened their doors to us as the initial service center, and then when we were overwhelmed there, Dr. Secretary said, you can come to BCC, and we came here, and we overwhelmed them. And then I believe Lehman College, Dr. Salgado, opened their doors to us, and we had Gambian Youth Organization, and so many partners that really stepped up, and it just warmed my heart, because we realized that this is our community, but they are our family members, but it could have been us. It could have been any of us. And so we take this very personal. And just when I thought that that would be the only devastation, the only tragedy, we had a building explosion in Longwood that took the life of a 77-year-old woman. And then we had a series of violence on an 11-month-old baby that was shot in her car seat with her mom. Thankfully, she is alive and lived to see her first birthday. And it's just been countless after another. And I think one of the gentlemen members of the AAC has said, we've had way too many fires. The fires I've seen in Bed-Stuy, I think earlier today I saw FDNY carrying a baby out of the building. And it just reminds you that, we have to do a lot more. But I also appreciate, as much as we do around education, we cannot blame tenants and we cannot blame family members. Because sometimes the behavior that we have is as a result of someone's failure. And that is something that we are learning from Twin Parks, that we are learning from Highbridge with the Mugasa family, that we are learning from Belmont, that we are learning from Happy Land. The most horrific fires in this city have occurred in the Bronx. Yep. And somehow there's a reason for that. And somehow we have to figure out what happened and learn a lesson and try our very best to prevent it from happening again. So yes, we need our partners at the FDNY, at Office of Emergency Management, at Red Cross, at HPD. We need all of our community partners, but we also need landlords. We need property owners to step up. And at times, there has been landlord neglect that has forced many of our own tenants and our people to use space heaters and other options when they have not been given sufficient heat. When I was growing up, we didn't have sufficient heat, and we used to turn the oven on. We would put a pot of water in the oven, and we would open the door, and that's how we would get heat. And you do it because you have no choice. It doesn't mean that we want to do it. It means that we have no choice because we need to be warm. We have elderly parents, and we have small children. And so we have to find some learning lesson, and what we've done as elected officials, working with Richie Torres and Gustavo Rivera and Udelka, Tapia and Oswald Feliz and Pierina Sanchez, who all represent the Fordham Heights area, we have formed a fire education and safety task force. And we're working with Senator Schumer at the federal level. We're looking at HUD. We're looking at regulating space heaters in a better way, making them more effective so we don't have faulty space heaters. We're looking at making sure that self-closing doors actually close, and fire alarms work, and smoke alarms work. And some of our larger buildings that have been grandfathered into the existing law are excluded and exempted from having exterior fire escapes. And in the case of Twin Parks, that's why many FDNY members had to carry people out from the window because there was no exterior fire escapes. And so we have a lot of work to do. But one thing that I realize are the issues that families at Twin Parks were facing are issues that other Bronxites are facing in other buildings, in NYCHA, in senior buildings, in Mitchell-Lama, in rent-regulated housing, in homes, right? And this is happening all over the Bronx and the city. And so we're taking a very proactive approach. We're not waiting for the next fire, although we've seen other fires, but we're really trying to put a real dent in the legal system. But you understand that these things take a while. FDNY can do their work, but it's HPD and other agencies that have to step up. And when you talk about the HPD portfolio and what we envision in housing, yes, we have apartment buildings in the Bronx with 4 bedrooms, and we have duplexes. I took a visit last week to La Central, which is on Bergen and Westchester. It's a fairly new building, over 500 units of affordable housing, and some of the Twin Park families that are being relocated permanently are looking at brand new apartments there. And what we're learning, many of our families today are doubled and tripled up because they have no options. There are not enough 3 and 4 bedrooms. Families are forced to live in 1 and 2 family apartments when we know that it's not conducive to their household size. And so sometimes we learn about the double tripled up after a fire and not before. And that's something we have to try to avoid. And sometimes, you know, it's hard because not everyone is necessarily on the lease for many reasons. Not everyone is documented for many reasons. And so it's hard because as we go in after a fire and we start asking for information, sometimes it can't be produced. And we're not penalizing families, but we're trying to help them through a system that's asking for paperwork that they don't necessarily have, but the need is still there, right? So we're experiencing that now at Twin Parks. We're experiencing that in University Heights. We're experiencing that in Castle Hill and Unionport and Parkchester. Those are all the other neighborhoods that have fires that our office is dealing with. So it's been a lot, right? And as much as I can, you know, just devote time, we're really trying, but my Director of Community Services, Tracy McDermott, has been great. Tracy went to one of the fire scenes earlier this week in Unionport to help the families. The council members on the ground have been great. And it's like as soon as you think that everything is good, boom, there's another fire. And sometimes there's no fault of a tenant. We had a fire in Parkchester that was in a supermarket on the ground level, but the apartments on top of the supermarket were all damaged. And it wasn't the tenant's fault, it happened in the supermarket. And so these are things that will happen. And even as we talk about education and fire safety, we have to continue doing that. But I do recognize in that split-second moment when you have to run for your life, you're not always remembering everything that you've been taught because you're running for your life. You're grabbing your children and you're running for safety. And sometimes that happens. So we don't want to blame tenants. We want to look at what happened after the investigation and what we can do to prevent. But certainly I understand that in that split-second moment, you know, sometimes all the things you've learned go right out the window because you need to be alive and you need to be safe. And so that is a priority for us. And so even in addition to everything I talked about, I'm so happy to hear about the project of the African Resource Center. And that was an idea from the AAC, from all of you, and I'm really grateful to even have played a small role in that. The Jerome neighborhood rezoning was so important to me. And even as we passed it in 2017, and we wanted to make sure we got $200 million in capital, the only rezoning with 2 schools, we broke ground on our school in District 9, which is right up the street at 1302 Edward right up the street. Almost 500 seats for elementary school children, right in the same neighborhood. We are the melting pot of the African community, of the Latino community, of the African American community. So why not have our own resource center? Most other communities have their own resource centers and museums, and yet the Bronx is still trying to keep up. We're just getting our Children's Museum in June. We're now getting this project. And so it has been said by Type A, L&M, and Bronx Works, you know, HPD has a lot in its portfolio, and they are really behind in closing projects. So I have been asked by many developers to try to help so that we can expedite some of these projects and move them along, because when you hear 5 years, None of us have 5 years. I mean, wait 5 years. That's a long time, and we just don't have that kind of time. And we want to make sure that we can push these projects along because they have such meaning and such value. And not only is it going to be a resource center, but it's going to be an economic revenue generator. It's going to create jobs and bring stability for families and supportive housing, affordable housing, you know, family units, sizes that really try to meet the demand and the need of our community. And then after that project, I got another one at 1640-42 Anthony Avenue, in which we pushed HPD because they only were looking at apartments, because this was a numbers game to get to a number.
Yep.
And we said, what about homeowners? Not everybody wants to be a tenant for the rest of their lives.
Yep.
What about bringing some equity and economic stability so that you can own your own property? So that we have a real seat at the
Yeah.
table. So this project on Anthony, which is also a part of the rezoning, it's right behind this site on River, is going to be 30 homes, 1 and 2 family homes, which is great for Borough. And if anyone envisions where this is, think about the east side of Claremont Park, on the Webster side where the McDonald's is.
Yeah.
There's a daycare center, the Bathgate Tremont Daycare. Right next to that daycare center, there's 2 parcels of vacant land, and that's where the homes are going to be. It's near Clay Avenue and Webster and Claremont Parkway. And I'm proud of these projects. And even though I've left the council and now serve as VP, we're working with the council member Althea Stevens and staying on top of this. We are supportive of Little Africa and making that designation. That's important because we have Little Yemen, we have Little Haiti, we have Little Bangladesh, we have Little Bengali, we have Little everything, and we should have Little Africa.
Yes.
So I'm excited, and I want to pledge the commitment of my office to work with all of you. One of the new things that we're looking to do as an office is create a new office of intercultural affairs, because we recognize the diversity, the culture, the ethnicities. We recognize just the beautiful mosaic that we are here in the Bronx, and we want to create an opportunity for that. So we want to have one space at Borough Hall where immigrant families can come and get a wealth of services, like a resource center, a welcome center, but we're calling it an intercultural unit because I don't always want to use the word immigrant because sometimes people look down on that, even though I look at it as a plus, but I do want to make sure that all of our immigrant families feel welcome. We are also looking at an Office of Public Safety. Public safety is super important to me because every day I am hearing about a shooting. Someone is being robbed, pushed down a flight of stairs, pushed off a subway platform. I mean, the woman in the Bronx who feces was thrown in her face, and she was an older woman. And this is happening all over. Look at what is happening to the Asian American community, where they are feeling victimized in their own community. So we have a lot of work to do, and we have a real homelessness issue. That's often why I used to call Scott, because Bronx Works can do it. I'll call Scott, I need you to come, there's someone here, and what we often find is many of the individuals living on the street have no shelter history. They have never been in a shelter before. And what we need, and Scott knows, we need more safe havens, and we need more safe beds that are not shelters, because many individuals on the street prefer to sleep on the street than go into a shelter, because they feel they'll be assaulted and killed, and it's dangerous, it's not clean, so they prefer to live on the street. If we had more safe havens, we wouldn't have the problem that we're having. So we're working with the new commissioner in DSS, Gary Jenkins, and trying to figure out what we can do. We want to build more housing. The more housing we build, the less shelters the city will force on us. And again, we've done our fair share. We've taken in shelters, we've helped families, single adults, runaway homeless youth, LGBT youth. We've helped everyone, but it's time for other neighborhoods to do their fair share. And a lot of neighborhoods don't want to. They don't even want to take affordable housing. And that is something that I will struggle with as a borough president, because some of those communities are in our very own borough. And we're going to have some hard conversations, because this is not personal, but this is about getting work done. And this is about making sure that we address the issues that we know are important. We focus on education and higher education, a pathway to the middle class, apprenticeship opportunities, worker cooperatives, community land trusts, so that we have owner-operated businesses, supporting our bodegueros, the supermarkets, the grocery stores, all of our entrepreneurs, a young man, MWBE, making sure that he has access to contracts. That's what you're talking about, because sometimes the contracts are awarded to the same companies that don't come from the Bronx, that don't come from New York City, often are not reflective of our diversity, and many of them come from other places. And we want to make sure that when we contract with organizations, they subcontract with MWBE firms, minority and women owned, and we focus on building that empire so that you can be successful, that you have opportunities, you're creating jobs, you're here providing the service, and you just want a level playing field just like everybody else, right? And so, let me just end by saying thank you for all of your support, for everything that you have done. Dr. Bola has been amazing. Sheikh Musa and many of our imams in the Muslim community have been absolutely amazing. And what I really appreciate is that while most of the residents that have been affected by the fire in Twin Parks were from the African Muslim community, we helped everyone. We didn't just help the African community, we helped the African American community, the Caribbean community, and the Latino community. So in addition to everything that's already been given out, I first want to say the hotels have been extended through April 7th for another month. We have to do it, and then we just secured a food provider to continue what World Central Kitchen was doing since January through April 7th as well. So starting Saturday, every hotel, there are 6, will get 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, beverages, snacks, water, everything for all of the families. And some may be wondering why it's taking so long, because parents and the families are being very careful about where they want to live. Not everyone wants to move out of the neighborhood. Not everyone wants to go to La Central. There are many families that really want to find the right apartment. And so they're taking their time, and we understand. We're not forcing them. And so some people are like, well, why is it taking so long? Because we're not rushing families. So I just want all of you to understand that, because I've been getting criticized a lot on social media because people think we're not doing anything, but we really are. I mean, it's taken a while because it needs to take a while. There are families that are doubled and tripled up that we've now separated and added additional heads of household so they can now go out on a separate case. And sometimes that takes time. We are providing furniture vouchers. Every family that's being permanently relocated is getting several $1,000s for furniture, so you can furnish a brand new apartment. The families that remain behind, there were 30 families that returned, they're also getting furniture vouchers. So I don't want anyone to think we're only taking care of those that are choosing to move. If you decide to stay, I had one woman, an older woman, that was nervous and she thought we were kicking her out. She wanted to stay at Twin Parks, so she's been there 30 years. And you have a lot of families that have been there a long time, and they don't want to move. They like the neighborhood, they're comfortable, they don't want to be pushed out. But they're also getting the funds that we are giving out. We just learned, I think the press release is going out tomorrow, that Grubhub is donating $100,000 to the families, which we're very grateful for. $100,000 is good. And we're working with BRONX. BRONX has been amazing doing case management. I don't know how BRONX does it because it's so much. And my head spins. And then CVR is providing the housing assistance. And so that's just, again, one fire. I have updates for all the others if anyone has any other questions. But nonetheless, I just want to say thank you. In the 9 weeks I've been borough president, it has been a lot of challenge, a lot of responsive, work on the ground, a lot of engagement. I've actually taken a lot of time to get to know people, so I've been traveling. I was in Marble Hill today. I was on City Island the other day. I was in Allerton, trying to get to know every neighborhood, talking to every civic group, every Democratic club, every organization, every stakeholder, working with faith leaders, clergy leaders, our AAC. We also relaunched the domestic and gender-based task force that we have in our office. Tiara Nobal, who is on our team, Tiara is right here. We're working with the community boards. Community board applications are due tomorrow. March 4th. If anyone wants to join any of the 12 community boards, as well as reappointments, We have a lot of appointments on various boards, so we're also doing that. I know he's gonna remind me, but Brother Ambrose reminds me that I have to get to the community advisory boards that we have at our health and hospitals, at North Central, at Jacoby, at Gotham, at Lincoln. So we're getting to that. So I just ask everyone to be a little patient. I didn't know January would be off the chain the way it was, but nonetheless, we are working. I am here, my office is available. We are returning to in-person constituent services. I have a number of events coming up. This is Women's History Month, so next Thursday, March 10th, we're doing Women's History. I'm doing Irish Heritage, then Italian Heritage, Greek Independence, Garifuna Heritage, and then we're getting ready for Bronx Week in May. And that's going to be fun. I'm keeping up all the events that Ruben has started, the summer concert series, the fireworks show, the salsa concerts. We're doing everything. And so we're in the planning stages today. But again, thank you all. It's good to be here. And congratulations, Bronx Boroughs and L&M and Type A. Looking forward to working with you, and thank you all so much.